so excited.
Me too.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Travis Payne at the Energy Studios here in Berlin. Choreographer, director, producer. What comes first?
Well, dancer first, which led to choreography, and then fortunately enough, I've been able to, I guess, parlay that into some directing and production. So it's all a blessing, really. Yeah. But it starts with dancing.
Okay. So then tell me, if you can, about your first encounter with music and dancing, the very first thing that happened that you saw, maybe a performance on TV or somewhere.
Well, that would have been at my family home. My parents, my mother's a musician, she's a flautist, and my father was an avid collector of vinyl. So he's got just about anything from the 70s on. And so I grew up in a house full of music. And, my sister and all of my friends were into dance. And, at an early age, I started dancing at 4 and then started training at 9.
What's the first song that you remember? You see, I want to get specific.
No. The first song I remember is the theme from Shaft.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I later went on to date Isaac Hayes' daughter, Heather. Hi, Heather. And became friends with Mr. Hayes before he passed. And but that's the first song I can remember. And, of course, a fifth of Beethoven comes to mind, too.
The dance version?
Yeah, the dance version.
Dance version of the Saturday night
That's right.
soundtrack
That's
version.
Right.
Okay. So very early on, or fairly early on, you decided to be that. But when did you know that is you dancing?
Oh, well, I can remember seeing Michael Jackson around the time of being 5 or 6, and being just enthralled by what he did, and just so inspired and motivated, and that's what made me start training, in preparation for my life's work. And I knew from an early age I had to work with him, and I was a fan like everybody else, and was just blessed with the opportunity.
What happens when you hit a wall, when you're working on something and you have to go one step further? What happens when you hit a wall?
Well, oftentimes, I learned from Michael, you can't, rush the creative process. You just have to be there and willing and aware of it when it happens, and and be very patient. So, there have been many nights where, you're not sure if it's the best idea. So you just sleep on it. You take a break. You come back fresh the next day, and you listen to the music. Let the music tell you what it needs.
Yeah. So one of the most anticipated movies of all time, one of the most anticipated DVDs or Blu-rays these days of all times. What's your most? It's a general question because of course we want to hear the little stories. But what's your most vivid memory of This Is It, the whole experience?
Oh, well, certainly being asked to return, and work with Michael again. This would have been our 3rd tour together. I started on the Dangerous tour as a dancer, and then went on to do the History tour, which was the last time I was actually in Berlin. And, This Is It, I'd always been wishing for Michael to return to the stage because I knew he wanted it so much. We had been trying to impress upon him to go to Las Vegas, with the success of some of the other shows there that music acts have done. And he said, nope, we'll know when it's the right time. And he called Kenny one day and he said, this is it. And so we began.
And the documentary is fantastic. It's it was more than I hoped for. It was a glimpse of everything. Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah. But what I found so fantastic were the kids. I call them kids. Okay?
Yeah, they were. They were.
And what do you think when you see those kids go crazy on stage and these cups, and you stand there smiling, or do you stand there?
I'm proud. I'm like a big brother to them all. We handpicked them from all over the world, and that was the idea, to pass on the information to the new generation. That's what he told me. He said, it's your responsibility. We're going to find new dancers. And, after I got up off the floor having fainted, because I assumed I'd be dancing myself, I said, okay, well then let's do a worldwide search. Let's use the internet. Let's find the best and the brightest, and let's, bring them to LA. And he goes, well, now you're thinking. And so that was the idea, to get a cross-section of humanity on stage with Michael, to show, sort of brotherhood and unity. and that music and dance is a special sort of bond that people can share no matter where they're from.
So you sit there, and you talk about this stuff that you work with Michael Jackson. You work with Michael Jackson. What do you say to kids that get stage fright? Second, it's not an everyday job. Of course, it's not, and it can't be exaggerated enough. Is there a trick like? Put a razor in your pocket and you cut yourself.
Yeah.
And you feel
well, no, the thing is that Michael was very, very good at making you feel comfortable. He would often say that he's just as grateful to have us there, as he knew we were to be there. And, it went both ways. And it was never any type of situation where you felt like he was your boss. You felt like he was your partner in the situation, and that you were creating with him and collaborating with him, and that he wanted you to be there, and that he respected your talent and why you're there. And so once you get past the initial shock of being face to face with him, then you sort of just relax into it. And he encouraged you to be comfortable and have a voice and really have an opinion, because he doesn't want you there to just love everything. He doesn't want you there to just tell him yes. He wanted to be challenged. He wanted to be, questioned, to make sure that we did what we could to make the show the best it could be.
I remember sitting in the theater, and now on DVD I can, pause and every time. I remember sitting there and thinking, this is perfect. This is perfect. And then Michael or someone else says, okay, rehearsals. Or Michael says, this is why we rehearse. And I'm thinking, why do you rehearse again? Because this is perfect. How far into the process were you? Were we could go on stage in 5 seconds?
Well, we were 8 days away from leaving Los Angeles to come to London to go to the O2 for 50 sold-out shows. And, so we had finished all the physicality of the show, all of the choreography, all of the music, all of the staging. And, in Michael's opinion, everybody had choreography. Even the person who is, changing the clothes, they have to do it a certain way in a certain amount of time. And so he considered that choreography. And that's why we rehearsed, so that everybody could get their beats and their timing. So all of that was done. All that we were waiting for was to come to London to work with the UK cast who was going to join us, and then do our full costume rehearsals. That was all that was left.
I was wondering if there's a difference in generations in terms of determination, because these days you have YouTube, you have idols, these things, Pop Idol or whatever, where you be a star, Right. Are they more, what's the word, cocky sometimes, these youngsters?
Well, I have to give it up to those types of programs, because, in order to sustain a career, you've got to have something. You've got to have some special quality. You can win the prize, but it's about maintaining and the longevity. And if you can put out more than one album, and if you can deal with the hectic schedule. So my hat's off to them, especially, those who, came from obscurity as an amateur and then now are thrust onto the world stage. It's a very hard job. And, I know that, from being around Michael for so long that, there's bad that comes with that too, and having such visibility, and, you become a target for things. And, hopefully, the people who come from the pop idols and American Idols and shows like that, can adjust, because it can be like a culture shock.
Okay. I have to get a little bit more serious now.
Okay.
Can you listen to a dance track and not dance?
Well, I can. I can make a conscious effort to just relax. Like if I, go to a nightclub, I enjoy watching more so than, performing. But, I certainly can listen to music. I mean, I love classical music, and it's very soothing, but if I hear something with rhythm, I'll move.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I was thinking that someone as experienced and as great as you are in what you're doing with choreography, when you're at a club and you see those people there, not that you will be judgmental about them, but you see and you choreograph them in a way that...
Oh, no, I like to see how people interpret the music.
Yeah.
Because it's real, and it's very honest and organic. So I enjoy that. I definitely enjoy that. The spontaneity of it is really cool, and people are having fun. So that's cool to me.
You just said enjoyed, and when you finished a work on a performance, like in This Is It, or well, finished, it's a weird thing to say. Other stuff you produced, the final result. Can you sit there and enjoy it, or is it always that you're thinking, tweaking there, tweaking there? Is a performance finished?
Well, I mean, there's always another layer, as you'll see in the DVD for This Is It. Mm-hmm. I mean, with Billie Jean, for example, which is one of Michael's most iconic pieces, I got great joy in watching him, do it for what ultimately would be the last time. And he was still able to find other places to go musically and choreographically and so that, and Thriller, I mean, it was created so many years ago, but we were able to reinterpret it and add to it, not change it, but embellish it. And I think that that was one of Michael's gifts, that he always knew that the pieces he was creating were going to be, so iconic that you can continue to have fun in them and continue to find, other dynamics within them. And so that's really, really great. But, I do have the ability to sort of view something as an audience as opposed to being so critical, because I think that's how you kind of get in tune to what the audience would do. I mean, Michael was very good at it. When we started rehearsal, we watched the history tour, and it was just so great to see him consciously make an effort to watch it with the audience eyes, and so that was great. I wish I had footage of that, seeing him, come out of that spaceship and he's frozen on stage, but watching him watch himself, that was just so just cool to me, But he would do that, he'd say, we have to watch it like they're going to watch it. You have to hear it like they're going to hear it, so that you put yourself in the audience's place to try and give them what they want.
What do you put in a DVD which could stand on itself? Because people will watch this over and over again. What kind of extras do you put on a DVD? What can people expect from the DVD or the Blu-ray of This Is It? A documentary about a documentary?
Well, the thing is that there were over 100 hours of footage. I mean, Michael was very adamant about always recording any creative process, and so he did it for years and had a huge facility on Neverland property that had all of his reference tapes and all of his, past performances and all of his, television appearances so that he could study them. And we did the same thing for This Is It. And so what you'll see in the over 90 minutes of bonus footage on the DVD and Blu-ray is, more creative conversations, more sort of behind the scenes of the behind the scenes, because it would have been impossible to just include everything, because the DVD would have never ended. But, in the interest of time and creating a sort of palatable film, we had to keep it to a certain length. And what we did was use the set list as an outline, in putting the film together, because that was the flow, was very important to him. And, the fans actually chose the songs that would be included in the show. So that was a great thing. He had, for the first time ever, had voting. So it was in the millions of what songs the fans wanted to see and hear. And so those were the ones that were included in the show. So that's what we put in the movie.
It's an old question. It's a classic question. What would have been your favorite moment in the show?
Well, my favorite moment in the show was definitely the opening. Because you see Michael back on stage again. Mm-hmm. That was going to be amazing. And just the way he was going to arrive on the stage and what he was going to wear when he arrived on the stage and, how everything would just start. He wanted it to be the greatest opening possible. He said, if they're able to sleep after this show is over, we have not done our job. I want to disrupt their sleeping pattern. It has to be that good. And so, I definitely remember that. And then, of course, I've always loved Earth Song, because it's the one of the songs that encompassed all of his messages of peace and love and hope and, and happiness and, prosperity and caring for one another. And so that was very important to him. So it was very important to me. And clearly, seeing Billie Jean and Thriller and all of those greats was amazing.
I have a question that I'm always interested in when people take other ways. I asked you about hitting a wall. Have you ever, in the process of working with Michael or with the whole show, reached a point where you thought, yes, we want to do that, but we cannot do that? Has that ever happened?
Absolutely. One time that comes to mind is creating the Ghost short film, and that was a 4-year process. Many people don't know that, but we began filming in Los Angeles 1 year, and we worked for about 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden Michael said, we need to take a break. And I said, why? He goes, because I know the technology is going to be better. This isn't cutting it, this is not the way I see it. So we waited for the technology that was available to catch up to his ideas. And then we began 3.5 years later, to finish Ghosts, so that it could have all of this sort of highly stylized technical aspects that he knew were coming. And it was worth it, because it's still one of my favorite pieces that we choreographed.
What are you working on now? What happens? Of course, you're touring for this. What are you working on now?
Well, I mean, we have been focused on, just continuing Michael's great work, and just reminding people of, everything we have to do as a society, to heal the planet. I mean, he'd been saying it for many, 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 many years, and I think that people listened to it but didn't hear him. And now we're seeing the effects of, the ecological system and, the strain we've put on the planet. And, just this morning I heard that Russia's having like record snow. And, I know I was in Las Vegas last winter and it snowed for Christmas. And, so you're seeing the effects of this global warming and all of these things. And, that's just the tip of the iceberg. But it's about continuing his good work. And, I've been fortunate enough to work with, some great artists, one of which was Lady Gaga. I just directed and choreographed her latest tour. And Michael was actually the one who turned me on to her, because we were doing a short list of artists that we were going to invite to join Michael in London for, some of the shows. Of course, Diana Ross was going to be invited, Janet was going to be invited, Mariah Carey would be invited, Whitney Houston would be invited, Justin Usher. And I turned to him, I said, anybody else? And he goes, yeah, Lady Gaga. And I said, really? He goes, yeah, you got to get into her. And I hadn't really, I'd only ever seen, I think the Poker Face video. And so I was like, okay, she's great, it's cool, I get it. But I didn't realize, what a great artist she is. And then I got the opportunity to work with her, and he was absolutely right.
It is, as you can imagine, very, very tough on people like us to sit here and, not ask you about, details and stuff. But
that's okay.
Like
whatever you want.
Like the question, okay. Like the question, where have you been, when Kennedy was shot? Something, people in years to come, whenever you meet them, will ask you, where have you been that day? How did you feel? And this is me sitting here and having to ask you that.
Yeah. Well, I actually was on my way to Michael's house on the day that I got news that there had been an emergency. Didn't know what. I had hoped it was something as simple as, maybe he fell, playing with his 3 young children that he was just so excited about and ready to share, all of the wonderful things that, he had loved for so many years with his art with them, because they were now old enough to appreciate it. So, I didn't really think the worst. I knew that I was getting calls, I was hearing things on the radio, and I was driving west on Sunset Boulevard, headed to the house, and we would start every day at 2 o'clock, just he and I. And so before I got there, I started hearing these reports, and I wasn't sure what to think. And then I got a call from Staples Center saying, divert your plan. Something has happened, an emergency has occurred. And so just come to the arena instead of going to the house. So I was like, okay, cool. And went there. And then ultimately when we, got confirmation that he had in fact passed, as you can imagine, we were all in shock. I mean, we still are. But I was at the Staples Center, with the entire crew. And we prayed and, just hoped it wasn't true. But, we found out it was. But we knew very shortly that we had to continue, that the work wasn't done, that, it would have been more tragic to have shelved his ideas and not shared them with the world. And so we just put our heads together and figured out that the best way to, share with his fans, who continue to mean so very much to him, and it was just necessary, for them and for his children and his family, to do something. And we didn't know what at first, but then, the idea came about to, take the footage that we've had and had really been left with, and tell the story of what the show was supposed to be. And fortunately, Sony got it, and understood the vision and has, spearheaded the entire cause.
And so you finished and put together a movie that is not only a movie but an event, and we thank you for that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I mean, it's the least I can do, and I have been honored and humbled, with the responsibility. I mean, Kenny nor myself, raised our hands and asked to do it, but it just seemed logical. I couldn't imagine anyone else, caring for this footage the way we would. Yeah.
And I got all I have. I have all I got. I got all I have. Got all I have.
Yeah. But I mean, it's important. I mean, his entire reason for returning to the stage was to, ring the alarm on this tragedy that we've got going on the planet. He was very, very in tune to that and very bothered by the things that he would see. Katrina devastated him. 9/11 devastated him. I'm very glad he didn't see Haiti. Because he never dealt with any of that stuff, very well. And, it's just anything we can do, to perpetuate his legacy. I'm all for it.
And in case you guys were wondering, that guy on the screen looks like Travis Payne. That was Travis Payne at the Energy Berlin studios here. And we say thank you very much.
My pleasure very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Peace.